broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Houston, Texas. It's time for Houston Business Radio. Now, here's your host.
Hello, Houston. Trisha Stetzel here, bringing you another episode of Houston Business Radio. It is my pleasure to introduce you to my guest today, Wendi Pannell. Today, founder of Pannell Consulting and creator of Business Gym. We're going to touch on that in a few minutes. Wendi is a business strategist and fractional COO who helps growing companies turn ambitious visions into real execution. With more than 2 decades of experience leading operations and teams at companies like HP and GE, she works with founders and leadership teams to bring clarity to priorities, install strong execution rhythms, and reduce founder dependencies so businesses can scale effectively. In addition to her consulting work, Wendi recently launched Business Gym, a structured 90-day accountability program designed to help women entrepreneurs strengthen their leadership, build momentum, and grow their businesses through community and disciplined execution. Known for her practical and direct approach, Wendi helps leaders move from ideas to measurable progress. Wendi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I took notes on several of the description items.
I saw you doing that in the background. I'm like, okay, is this a good thing or a bad thing?
So it was good. Just lots of dialogue.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about you.
Yes. So I have 3 boys. I'll start with that because I think that paints a picture of the chaos in my personal life that I also have to keep under control and also just let happen. And yeah, live in a small town in Southwest Virginia. So Blacksburg, Virginia, home of the Virginia Tech Hokies, a lot of people know about. And, you know, I really love what I do, both from a, fractional COO with small to medium-sized tech companies to my recent kind of role in creation of the Business Gym, which is truly a passion project that allows me to honestly just be more present in my hometown and engage with the community. And that's just brought me so much unexpected joy. So I'm really getting to do passion projects and my day job that pays the bills all the time. And yeah, I'm just loving it.
Love that. That's fantastic. So it brings something to mind, Wendi, and I think a lot of us women struggle with is the old adage of work-life balance, which is now really integration, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep it all together?
Definitely a lot of plates spinning. I think when I not first had kids, I was maybe 10 years in, I realized it wasn't about balance. It was about being present in the times that I needed to be present. It was some days I was 100% a mom or 75% mom and 25% an employee probably at the time because I didn't have my own business. But it's also about setting expectations, right? With my husband, with my kids, with my employer. Now it's with myself. I have lots of conversations with myself, but setting those expectations and knowing that sometimes somebody's getting more of me than the other, and that's perfectly okay.
Oh, did you guys hear that? It is okay to be a mom on a day that you need to be a mom, and it's okay to be a business owner on a day that you need to be a business owner. And what I heard you say, Wendi, and I think it's great advice, is you got to have guardrails or guidelines with your family, yourself, and your business. Yeah.
100%. It's setting the expectations that, this is how I'm going to be showing up or not showing up. Like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm going to miss the practice or the game or the event, or to my employers the same. The other thing my husband and I kind of decided on early on is when one of us would take a new role, for 3 months, we could be less at home because we knew we were getting integrated into this new role, this new job. And so that kind of communication expectations has just rolled into when one of us have a big project or a client delivery, we just know what's going to be there or not be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this reminds me that you're a fractional COO, or that's the role you typically take when you're working with other companies. Can we talk about that? There's a lot of fractional C acronyms out there
Yeah.
these days. So when you say fractional COO, what does
Mhm.
that mean?
Well, when I first went out on my own, when I worked for any company, I was always that person in the organization that you could just drop in and ask me to go fix something, go figure out what they're doing, like make it better, make it more efficient, make money, shut it down, maybe. So when I decided to go out on my own, I didn't know what I was. I was like, aren't people just going to hire me because I get stuff done?
Mhm.
Um, because I'd never done like the sales and marketing. I didn't understand when you're out on your own, you have to tell people what you do. They don't just know what they do.
What?
I know. And quite frankly, a lot of my contacts were in big Fortune 500, 25, 5 companies. And that's not who I was wanting to help. So I actually joined a cohort of other like minded and kind of same space, same season. And I explained to them what I wanted to do, which was to go in and help companies be more efficient and get things done and execute. And one of them were like, well, you sound like a fractional COO. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now the fractional space is definitely more saturated than it was, which is good because more businesses understand what a fractional consultant can bring. And essentially, it's you are getting the full breadth and depth and season of a professional, of a person at a fraction of the cost. For me, it's about working with companies that are not ready for a full-time COO. Maybe they're in that scaling stage, or maybe they have a COO, but they are growing so fast they need other focus or expertise or another set of hands. So because I've been in the tech space for, I hate saying 2 decades or 25 years, it sounds so long, but for a long time, I have just seen a lot of different things. I have a lot of different experiences. So I'm able to jump into a company and get acclimated very quickly. I think that's one of my superpowers. I can kind of look around and absorb what's going on and listen. I don't come in and say, we need to do this right away unless there's a very clear and obvious problem. But the things that I do implement right away are just basic standards that, quite frankly, any company, I don't care where you're at, if you don't have these 3 things, they're the things that you need to do right away. So fractional is just really enabling growing companies to get super focused and make sure that they're executing.
Okay, so let's talk about that execution piece. I've heard you say, and we connected on this, that a lot of companies think they have a strategy problem when they really have an execution problem. So, what
Yes.
does it look like in real life, or what have you seen play out?
So it's funny. That is what I wrote down because at the beginning, you're like business strategist. I really need to reframe that differently. The strategy is honestly to do more execution because a lot of companies will spend a lot of time talking about or figuring out what that strategy is, but then they put it up on the shelf that I had over here and they don't talk about it again. So what I really am going to bring into companies is making sure they know exactly what matters. What is that 1, 2, or maybe 3 things that need to get done this quarter, this month? I usually think in quarters. That's just the corporate side of me. What is that needs to get done? And let's talk about it every week, like with the people that matter, with your execution team. Let's talk about that one thing and give it a status because we've been really clear about what good looks like, what success looks like. One of my favorite analogies, I love Prosecco, but I say champagne. I want businesses to know when they can pop that champagne. Like, when do they need to start chilling the champagne so they can pop that champagne? And you can't do that unless you know specifically about where you're going. So a lot of companies feel like they have goals, and they probably do, but they probably have conversations too often about well, are we there? Did we reach it? Is this, you know what? No, it's not. So helping them get super clear about what that goal is, I think, a game changer. And then talking about it, taking that strategy and putting it in action, building a roadmap so that everyone can kind of see where we're going, and they know, yes, we're going to do that, but not yet, because we need to get these few things in line first. So it's really about my strategy. Is it just about more execution and talking more about what you're executing on?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you guys are hearing it now, this practical and direct approach that Wendi has, and something that I really, really love. Something else that you focus a lot on is this founder dependency. And I think that we talk about it a
Mhm.
lot, and our founders are hearing it, but they're not actually doing anything about being that dependent, or the dependency being on the founder. So how do leaders start building systems and leadership inside of their company so it doesn't just become dependent or stay dependent on them?
This one is tricky because it's also very much a feelings thing and a trust thing, which is something that a lot of business owners or founders don't want to talk about or don't even recognize. Like, they probably see the dependency is, oh, the team needs me, or I built this company. Of course, I'm supposed to know and do and be responsible for everything. Or, I am so busy, and it almost feels good because you are needed even as the company is growing, which I get it. Like, that all does feel good. Like, there's a side of me as a mom that I'm like, oh, you don't want to come home even though you graduated, like you don't want to hang out. It hurts. I get it. But not but, and I think that a lot of founders get burnt out and
Mhm.
frustrated and are kept up late at night because they've got a great team, but things aren't moving. They haven't seen progress. They can't name the progress. If they have a board, they don't have clear visibility into, these are the things we're getting done. Here's how we're using your money. So I think founders first need to recognize that they are the bottleneck, right? If everything has to run through them, the company is not moving as fast as it could. And you probably have maybe unhappy employees, right? You hired people to do a certain job. And I feel like when you remove yourself as a bottleneck and you get really clear about where you're trying to go and how you're going to measure success as a founder or a CEO, it's analogous, like giving your entire team capes. They're all going to become superheroes for you and for the business, and things are just going to get done faster. So it's really about recognizing that you are the bottleneck, because every answer, every decision has to go through you. And if you're at a certain stage of growth, it's also going to be about making sure that you have the right people in the right seats. What I see oftentimes, and is also a very much a feelings and a difficult conversation, is the people that got you here are not the people that could get you to the next stage. And recognizing and understanding that and taking actions to make sure you have the right people in place is kind of another factor of that, because it might be that you're holding on to everything as a founder or a CEO because you don't have somebody to trust that you can hand it off to. So they really have to find the people that they trust, which mean that they are capable, and they understand your vision, and they're able to help you articulate your vision.
Thank you for leading with it's emotional. Right? Being a founder and building a business is very emotional. And I think sometimes we just categorize that as being in control of everything.
Yeah.
And I love that you said allow the people on your team to put on their capes. I like to consider it a gift to
Yes.
those who are on your team so that they too can grow and get better.
Yeah.
All right. I know we are already halfway through, and there are some ladies and gentlemen that are listening today that already want to connect to you and learn more about what it is that you're doing, Wendi. So where is the best place for them to connect with you?
Yeah, I am very active on LinkedIn. I share my thoughts and what I really think about things. So definitely find me on LinkedIn, Wendi with an I, Pannell, 2 N's, 2 L's. And then my website also just kind of puts it out there like I like to think and how I kind of how I think about working with businesses. So those are 2 great places to connect with me just to understand more about who I am and what I like to do.
Fantastic. Thank you, Wendi. And as always, you guys, I'll put that in the show notes as well. So if you're sitting in front of your computer, you can just point and click and get directly to Wendi with an I, Pannell with 2 N's and 2 L's. All right, Wendi, I want to shift just a little bit to women in business and accountability. So tell me what you're up to, and let's talk more about that.
So this was definitely not something that was on my 2025 bingo card. Actually, one of my objectives in 2025, I've always been very involved in women in technology. So usually run through local tech councils. I was kind of at a season in my career where I wanted to be more intentional about how I was helping women. Like, how could I give back? Because I'm in a season of my life where I have the bandwidth and the energy to give back. And so I kind of wrote it off because I was just so busy with the fractional COO stuff that I had not found that thing. And then I joined a local co-working space and they asked me to do a series, like a talking series. And I did it on, I actually called it UGG goals, right? Because a lot of people, especially smaller businesses, are like, goals are for corporate. That's not for like my small business. So I did the session and it ended up being women business owners that joined. And afterwards they were all talking and they said, I really, I know what I need to do. I know these are things that I need to do, but I just really need somebody to hold me accountable. And as this like new entrepreneur, I was like, oh, like, I think I can help with that because I had come up through GE where we did cohorts and, had these concepts of bringing small, like groups of people together. And at GE, it was like actually the different P&Ls. So we'd have healthcare, banking, airplanes, like trains, right? All of the different industries. And so I'm like, well, what about this? And so I, with another woman that had already been kind of coaching, we're talking about creating a group of women. And I know as a woman entrepreneur myself and founder that in the beginning, I had the hardest time investing in myself. Like I was like, I shouldn't spend money because I'm not making money yet. And so I just kind of scoped it out to be, let's do 90 days. So a quarter, right? Going back to my corporate, let's do 90 days. And you are going to pick one big goal that's going to move your company forward. And then we're going to meet weekly as a group and we're going to hold each other accountable. And, I would do some coaching about what I'd seen in my own business and also just quite honestly, bringing all my corporate lessons learned into these smaller businesses, which many of them had not been in corporate. Like they've always been entrepreneurs or they hadn't experienced some of the systems or things that you could put in place. And so they were like, yes. Eventually, it did take me some convincing to get some women to sign up. It goes back to that, I don't have the money. I should not invest in myself. So the first time I got 4, and at the end, they were all like, you're going to do this again, right? Like, we're going to keep going and we're going to do this in Q1. And so I really didn't plan on that, but I was like, okay. And then in the second cohort, I've got 7. The other thing I'll do, I want to add this in because I think it's important because I've had coaches that did not go well, that were not a good fit. I said, if you do not get 100% return on your investment through new clients, through time saved, I will give you all of your money back. I wasn't trying to earn money on this. I was really just trying to kind of support them and get them to invest in themselves, because when you invest in yourself, you also change your mindset about the importance of yourself and the importance of your business. And so I was passionate about that. If at some time they weren't, now they did have to show up like to 10 of the 12 sessions, and they had to show that they were like putting in the work and the effort. So the next go around, I'll probably get at least those same 3 women back again, and hopefully some of the new ones. But it's just brought me so much joy to be able to take what I've learned over the years from small and big businesses and give these women's different perspective, but also a group that when they walk in, to our small little conference room, they don't have to explain the kind of day they've had. They're all entrepreneurs. They're all wearing multiple hats, taking care of parents, taking care of children, being in relationships, also doing other things in the community. They just know, today I might be exhausted and I'm just going to sit over here and absorb what all of you other women are putting in, but I'm taking things away. So just that joy of bringing amazing women together and helping them to grow their business in a very systematic way has just been amazing.
That right up my alley, and the whole reason that we were introduced to each other in the first place, right? Because of the work that we do. Before we started recording, we were talking about in-person versus virtual. So tell me what you've seen in this first, now going into your second cohort, the difference it makes having women come together in person.
Yeah, I love these women too, because they're like, Wendi, you should scale this. Like, you should take it online and get women from all over. And honestly, I would love to, because I would love to have that bigger impact. But I think part of the magic is being in person. And so because we are juggling multiple things, we do 1 week in person and 1 week together in a conference room. So every other week we're in person. And I've just shared with them, and I've asked them, like, I think part of our magic is that we get together in person. And so we have that like additional bond. We can really see each other's faces. And even with my COO clients, if I can meet them in person, which I don't always get to do, I absolutely love to break bread together, because it just makes the rest of the conversations easier and things just get done faster, I find. So I'd love to scale it and share this. So if I don't scale, I would love to encourage other fractionals, because I think I do have this energy. I'm also a huge organizer, but the other thing I've been able to help a lot of them with is tech. Like, hey, you're doing this. We could make this faster. Here's some technology you could consider. So if you do something like I do, you're in a perfect space, position, and mindset and skills and ability to open like this in your hometown. And it's fantastic.
I love that. So if you're listening today and you happen to be interested in creating or being a part of a women's cohort, women in business and accountability group, I think Wendi might like some feedback on in person, or do you scale it and go online? I love the idea of over a 12-week period, you meet 6 times in person. That's a difference maker. Trisha's opinion. And I love that you're doing that. So if you guys want to reach out, you know how to find Wendi on LinkedIn or on her website. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about Business Gym. Can we talk a little bit about that? Tell me about your 90-day program.
Yeah. So the structure is that for 90 days in the beginning, just like I do with my fractional COO clients, we define one very clear goal. And usually this is where they learn about my feedback style. So I'm pushing them on, well, what does that mean? What does that look like? When can we pop champagne? So they have a very specific goal line. So, and this again, I akin creating goals to like understanding how a sommelier tastes wine. It's taken me years to understand what a good goal is. And so I use the objective and key results framework because I love how it mixes the why with the how and the what. So I push them to define that, because they have to start with clarity. And once they do or have the goal, we store it somewhere where I'm showing them, hey, you're bringing this back on a weekly basis. I teach them a cadence of how they check in with themselves or how they check in with me, because I also do one coaching call with them a month. So clarity, and then that cadence of talking about it once a week. And then the next part is, okay, when we're getting together in that time, that 75 minutes that we're together, we are talking about, what did you get done? What roadblocks did you have? And what are you doing this coming week? What's going to move the needle? If you're in technology and the tech space, it's a stand-up, right? It's a 15-minute stand-up that a lot of tech teams do. So getting them in the system and the cadence of clarity and cadence and asking themselves questions is what helps to move that goal forward. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's the exact same thing that I use for bigger tech companies is write down the one thing that matters, right? For them, I also will say, ask your team, don't assume, ask them what's sticky, what's not moving. So even for these smaller solopreneur, entrepreneur women, what's slowing you down right now? And if you have a team and you start asking your team that, because a lot of leaders assume they think what's slowing them down, because again, it's usually not the strategy, it's tactically what is slowing those folks down, then they're going to be able to make their strategy, execution, move faster. And then again, the simple difference that a 30-minute check-in a week, I don't care if you're a solopreneur, I have check-ins with myself. I've got a spot on my calendar, Pannell Consulting check-in. And during that time, I'm looking through my goals, my objectives, and my key results, and I'm being honest with myself about what moved and what didn't. And that helps me prepare for next week. What do I need to mitigate? What do I need to really help to move me forward? And as a solopreneur, it's great because it's keeping me accountable, because it's really hard when you're a solopreneur sometimes to kind of hold yourself accountable. But the great thing about this, Trisha, is, even though I work with a lot of tech companies, those three things don't require a consultant. They don't require new technology or tools. It is the art of accountability and clarity that's really going to help any company, solopreneur to, $20 million in ARR to move the needle.
I love that you work in 90-day sprints. I don't know if you use that word. That's just what came forward for me. Yeah. And it really feels like as a solopreneur or just an entrepreneur with a small team, that I don't have to eat the elephant all at once. It feels way less overwhelming to do everything in 90-day sprints. And you're doing this in your daily work with your clients, with the women that you're bringing in, and business gym 90-day execution cycles to get us where we need to be. And I think that's fantastic. So I have one more, as we wrap up, I have one more question for you, Wendi. If a business owner, leader, and especially the women who are listening today, if they feel stuck or overwhelmed, what's one small thing they can do this week to bring more clarity and execution into her business?
Write down, which could be brainstorming, what is the one thing that matters that they need to move this week? You could even start with this week. What is the one thing that you need to get done this week? And make that your priority. Move mountains, move calendars, move things that aren't important off of your calendar, and block time to review it, to do it, to make the plan to get it done. There's also psychology around a list, right? And checking things off. When you feel like you're making momentum on a regular cadence, it gives you that boost to keep going. And when you are running a small company or in your growth mode, those little wins count a lot for you and for your team. So my suggestion, that one thing, would be to write it down. But here's the other thing that I think a lot of folks could use help with is that the right thing? And when you are working on your own and you don't have a co-founder or a COO or just somebody who's like got your vision and your passion to push you on whether that is the right thing, this is where having mentors, having people that have gone this path before, having a cohort of other women, or reaching out, to a fractional COO. If somebody wanted to send me their goal in a DM on LinkedIn, listen, I nerd out about this stuff. So send it to me. I'm happy to say, yeah, this isn't going to work for you, right? Even if it's just how it's worded, I can quickly say, you're not going to know when you hit this. You need to be more specific. So I think that could just be the one thing they do for the week, the quarter, the month, not the year. Please, not the year. Start small. What is one thing that you absolutely have to get done to move the needle in your business?
Fantastic. So 2 questions for the audience to think about is, what's the one thing and is it the right thing? And
Yes.
you guys need to reach out and check in with Wendi. She is amazing. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah.
Tell folks one more time how to find you.
LinkedIn, very active. So Wendi with an I and Pannell, 2 N's, 2 L's. And then my website, poorly named. So I'm not in marketing, but wendypannell.com.
Hey, that's fantastic. Then we can find you so easy. I love it. Thank you, Wendi. It has been my pleasure to host you. Thanks for spending the time and joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Trisha.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today. If you found value in this conversation that Wendi and I had, please share it with a fellow entrepreneur, a veteran, or Houston leader ready to grow. Be sure to follow, rate, and review the show. Of course, it helps us reach more bold business minds just like yours. And your business, your leadership, and your legacy are built one intentional step at a time. So stay inspired, stay focused, and keep building the business and the life you deserve.